Welcome back. On this day a year ago, we were forecasting a routine severe weather event. A line of storms rolling through fueled by summer heat and humidity.
Damaging winds, heavy rain, and lightning were the main concerns.
But those were just the first dominoes to fall in a tragic sequence of events that led to the loss of 17 lives that day.
Let's take a look back at the storms that were a huge player in the tragedy and the ingredients that came together that day to make them deadly. First, a strong storm system was passing through the upper Midwest. This generated a corridor of strong atmospheric winds directed at Missouri, winds that played a critical role in organizing storms that day. Second, a morning round of storms that pushed southeast through eastern Missouri helped to sharpen up a front across western Missouri during the afternoon. And third, high levels of heat and humidity developed just west of the front during the afternoon, creating a super-fueled path for storms to follow later in the day. These three ingredients added up to a wave of storms that swept across southwest Missouri and northwest Arkansas, known as a derecho, a long-lived line of intense storms that produces widespread damaging winds.
Here's a look at the timeline. The Storm Prediction Center advertised a severe potential early in the day. By late morning, it was clear ingredients were in place for severe storms, and a severe thunderstorm watch was issued shortly after 11 a.m. Storms originated around the Kansas City area early in the afternoon, merging with another cluster of severe storms moving southeast through eastern Kansas by mid-afternoon. These storms gathered steam, producing wind gusts that topped 80 miles per hour before surging southeast into southwest Missouri. A derecho was born. The line of severe storms and damaging winds hit Springfield before 6:30 with a gust of 74 miles per hour recorded at the airport. The severe nature of the winds and likelihood of damage prompted a rare sounding of the storm sirens across town, usually reserved for tornado warnings. The city will sound the sirens in cases where winds of over 70 miles per hour are expected. The line of storms then plunged south toward the Branson area with strong winds of 55 to 65 miles per hour, arriving around 7 p.m. on the east side end of Table Rock Lake. The sustained high winds churned up the lake, causing Stretch Duck 7 to take on the water and then sink within minutes of the storm's arrival.
And what was interesting and unusual about those storms that day is that gust front was way out ahead of those lines of storms. So those gusty winds came in while the sun was still out, possibly catching some people on the lake off guard. This is critical to be weather aware on the lake and know that those changes are possible. So we took a look back at what happened and a look ahead at preparedness. Take a look.
July 19th, 2018.
Just updating you on the progress of this line of severe storms with damaging winds.
Severe, non-tornadic storms were so strong.
This is part of a surge of wind energy which cut across the Springfield area. We had reports of wind gusts as high as 74 miles per hour at the airport.
Straight line wind damage warranted interrupting TV programming and sounding the outdoor sirens in Greene County. This line of storms dove south towards Table Rock Lake, and just a few short hours later,
what a storm today on Table Rock.
Those same storms had us asking, how did this happen? What can we do better to prevent this tragedy from happening again?
Dark clouds rolling in, shifting winds. If the waves on the water pick up.
Trooper Ryan Zeller with Missouri State Highway Patrol Water Division advises you to stay weather aware.
With the technology and cell phones, there's plenty of radar apps and weather apps you can use.
Before you even get on your boat, make sure your emergency kit is packed with food, water, life vest, a fire extinguisher, whistles to signal help, and laminated insurance and contact information.
Make a plan, practice that plan, and make sure you have communications as well. Don't rely on just one form of communication, whether that is, a social media message that comes through on your phone, or whether that's a NOAA weather radio.
Brandon Surgener with the Greene County Office of Emergency Management says you should use a blue sky day.
Make sure you go through the motions so you know what to do, know where to go, know who to communicate with, know where your emergency kits are.
To practice the safety plan you would use when warnings are issued. When the water and weather get choppy.
If you're going against the waves, just keep the bow elevated and hit the waves at a 45-degree angle.
Make sure everyone has a life vest on and secured.
And make sure that you have just enough propulsion to keep you moving forward.
Simple safety tips we always hear and take for granted, hoping tragedy never hits this close to home again.
As meteorologists, our most important job is to communicate when dangerous storms could be a threat to life and property. And that day was an emotional one for us because warnings were issued, warnings were communicated on air, online, on social media, yet we still lost so many lives that day.
Yeah, and we are constantly looking at ways of improving communication of critical weather information. Some things we, alongside with our partners at the National Weather Service and Emergency Management, have done differently is be more specific in warning text, specify impact hazards, what dangers they pose to life and property, and really try to drill down to specific locations and events that may be impacted, all in plain language so it's easier to determine your risk and course of action.
But it's ultimately up to each and every individual to be aware and take action when necessary. Don't rely on just one source of warning information. Remember, outdoor sirens are meant to be heard outdoors, and not all towns employ them. Also, television and computers can and will fail during power outages. Please make sure you have a weather radio so that you can always receive warning information and remain weather aware, whether on land or at the lake.